you find fellows who fish for the char in the cool morning light when the sun meets the stars. Our tackle will find them wherever they are. We welcome the sunrise when hunting the char. The silver lures glitter and glint in the sun. The charfish are down there, and the search has begun. Soon the glimmering water will give us our wish. From the cold and deep darkness we'll catch a fine fish. With the lazy line trailing to...
I'm Harvey Lord, and I fish for char on Windermere using what I suppose you'd call the traditional Lake District method. It started for me when I was about 7, being woken up by my dad in what felt like the middle of the night and walking down to the lake, pushing the boat out and dropping in just as it got light. You'd then be able to make out other char boats slowly rowing out, and we'd have the lake to ourselves. I'd be asking my dad, "Who's that in that boat? Who's that?" My dad would say, "Oh, that's Flaherty and Mr. Wilkes, or that's Noisy Malcolm," or whoever it was. Peter Haslam used to fish with me dad and still maintains his traditional clinker-built wooden char boat.
My name is Peter Haslam. I've been fishing for char on Windermere sort of most of my life. What I find interesting about it was all the people who used to go char fishing, all the men and the sons and everybody else. And over the years, these lads, of course, have got a bit older. Some of them passed away, unfortunately. And there's less and less of the char fishermen today. And there's only a few of us left now, maybe a dozen. But in the heyday, there was, I can remember when we used to have competitions and there was like 48, 50 men out there fishing away. It's a bit sad, really, when you look around and there's only half a dozen of us so left now who are actually maintaining the boats and pursuing our quarry on Windermere.
The char now in Windermere are under a fair bit of pressure. Global warming, exacerbated by all this pollution, means the temperature of the lake has risen. So now these coarse fish like bream and roach are thriving in here and outcompeting the char for food. So at the start of 2024, I thought it'd be interesting to go on a bit of a tour and try and fish for char in other waters, like across Scotland, Ireland and Wales. Hopefully raise a bit of awareness of the char and meet a few other char fanatics.
So I'm Ellie Ward, and I'm a final year PhD student based at the University of Durham, and I basically do research that's looking at phenotypic and genetic diversity of Arctic char populations in England and across Norway as well. One of the most extraordinary things about Arctic char is that they're an incredibly diverse species, and across the literature they're actually referred to as the most diverse vertebrate in the world. And that's because across their range they're varying massively in terms of their morphology, their behaviour, their life history. So you have both landlocked populations of Arctic char, those that are in enclosed lakes, such as ones in Windermere and Coniston in the Lake District. But then you also have anadromous populations. So that refers to Arctic char that actually migrate out to sea over the summer for 6 to 8 weeks to feed and then return back to their natal rivers and lakes in order to spawn and to overwinter. When lakes, for example, like in Windermere, we might expect to find Arctic char in the deeper areas of the lake where they're more suited to kind of a colder environment. But as we see more invasive species coming into this lake, there's the potential that Arctic char are going to be forced out of those environments that they're adapted to. And then the question is, can they survive so many non-native species being present as well, on top of climate change and pollution in the lake and everything else? I guess the only other thing I would maybe say is that I find it really interesting whenever I speak to people, because whenever I say what I'm doing for my research, a lot of people don't seem to have heard about Arctic char. And you talk to people who come to the Lake District all the time and they have no idea that they're in these lakes, that they even exist. And so I guess it's just about also just raising people's awareness that like this species exists and that it's amazing. It's a really exciting, interesting fish, and you know, we do need to protect it and kind of safeguard it for future generations, because it's also just such a culturally significant species as well.
We packed our poles, tackle, clamps and bungees. I always take plenty of bungees, they usually come in handy, and headed up to try a few Scottish lochs, where we managed to find a few Scottish char. And while we were there, we were lucky enough to meet Ron Greer, author of Ferox Trout and Arctic Char. And we talked a bit about some of the issues affecting the char up there. Someone who knows more than me once told me there are no experts in char fishing, which is probably right. If there's an expert in char, it's probably Ron, though he probably wouldn't thank me for saying so.
Well, my name is Ron Greer. I've had an interest in Arctic char biology for the last 50 years, both professionally and personally. And I'm a member of an international group of scientists called the International Society of Arctic Char Fanatics. So that maybe sums up our mentality. And I'm still, even in my senior years now, I'm still out there in the front line trying to find out more about Scottish char. Scotland's forte, if you want to call it that, is the fact that we've got probably more Arctic char populations here in Scotland than the rest of Western Europe put together. Only, you know, the Scandinavian countries have more individual populations of char living in lochs in Scotland. Well, I gather you guys are going to Loch Laggan up on the road to Spain Bridge, over the road that goes over to Oban and Fort William, the Western Road. And I've been looking at Loch Laggan for many years, since 1982, where we've done several studies on the char there. The problems at Loch Laggan are basically twofold. It fluctuates as a hydroelectric reservoir, as many of these big lochs do now. And there's a threat in the system, but that has caused changes in the water level that impact on the char, particularly the spawning. And because of the hydro connections, years and years ago, it let pike into the system. And for thousands of years, there was no pike. And they're impacting on the char, and have done for quite some time. And then the latent threat now is, because Laggan is connected to the space system by hydroelectric connections, then the roach and the perch will eventually come down into Laggan and alter the whole ecology. And the bureaucratic maze is a nightmare to go through. And there's a lot of jobs worths going on. And some of them seem to take the scripts of Yes Minister as an instruction manual. It's rather sad when it's very simple, but it's not easy. And they don't appreciate the urgency. That they're in an office, it's about, they're very good at managing the legislation, and that's what buzzes them, but they're not good at managing the practicality of the ecology on the ground, or more especially in the water. So you have got that bureaucratic jellyfish operating that stops things from moving forward when they need to move forward very quickly.
Sometimes when you're fishing for char, you do hook up with other fish, like these big predatory trout. An old char fisherman told me that they follow the shoals of char like a black shadow. They're stunning fish in their own right, and they really make the bell ring.
Pull the other one.
Ah, yeah. It's got extra bells on it. Some of the deep glacial lochs of Ireland have char in them. We went over to fish a few in April. What a stunning spot. Initially we targeted Loch Mask, where we met Luke Dray from the local water authority. He's long been after catching a char and was good enough to take us out in his boat with the aim of finding one. We had a good rattle, but no fish en masse, but we were lucky enough to find a small but stunning silvery char on another deep Irish loch.
So my name is Luke Dray, and my connection to Loch Mask is we have this house here that's been in my family for 70 or 80 years, and we've spent a lot of time here when I was a child, and really it's been my introduction to water and fishing. Been coming down here since I was born. Yeah, when I was about 12 or 13, there had been a big easterly storm, which means the waves were coming on this shore, and I went down early the next morning fishing from the shore, and I found what I thought was a trout washed up dead on the beach. But to me, I thought it was an unusual looking trout because it was kind of green on its back and orange on its belly. So I initially thought that it was kind of mouldy and decaying, but I brought it up anyway to show my dad, and he told me that it was a char. So became kind of really intrigued and interested by the char in the lake at that point, and I tried for a couple of years myself to try and catch one, but with no success. So yeah, as part of our Blue Dots program, we have various different projects around awareness of those water bodies that are blue dots and the species they protect. And a recent project that happened here in Termakeedy was we commissioned an art installation by a local artist by the name of Annalise Brown, and she created a beautiful mosaic of an Arctic Char, which has been installed on the lake shore. And it, not only is it aesthetically fantastic, and it's in a place where anglers launch their boats and the local community spend time. But it's also a really important piece to highlight the species in the lake and their importance, because people don't see them very often, people don't catch them, and the general public don't really know they're there or how important they are as an indicator species. If the char remain in this lake, the water quality will remain high. And if the water quality declines, then the char will be gone.
In Wales, there's a bit of a history of char fishing, although the technique is different to what we do up in the lakes. A fella called Hugh Hughes has been involved in a successful char rearing programme and was kind enough to show me round the hatchery. Padarn is facing similar problems to Windermere, pollution and eutrophication. So fair play to Hugh and the local fishermen who've battled to turn the lake around. The char in there are doing much better now thanks to help from the local fishermen. We had to go on a couple of the waters that have char in them and caught and returned some fantastic fish.
Well, my full name is Hugh Price Hughes, probably named after a Welsh Calvinistic Methodist preacher years ago, but somebody said no, it's after your grandfather from both sides, so there we are. I haven't lived here all my life, but I've been brought up here. I brought up in the village just over the bridge there. We moved away for many years, working with the police. Been back living here since 1977, and I've taken up char fishing since 1977, and my interest in the char is I suppose infatuation, as you call it, is it something like that? And we worked a lot. We've had the hatchery going. We've been out. We've done all sorts of things. Unfortunately, of course, nobody seems to listen. The interest in char is phenomenal.
Yes.
But not in this area anymore.
No.
It's a lot of interest from around London and places like that. People want to know about the char, and people want to come and fish for char.
Yes.
We used to put char fishing lots on the Angling Trust and Wild Trout website auction, or they were selling them, but they were never taking them up.
Yeah.
They were never coming up. I said I'd take people out, but they never came.
Never happened. Yeah.
So, there's plenty of bodies that sprung up around the place.
Yes.
They're supposed to be safeguarding and looking after the environment, but
really they're limited and sort of more blindfolded into their own aims. They don't seem to do anything. Okay, they go around perhaps and pick up Himalayan balsam, but nobody's going around and keeping an eye on the awful sewage discharges in the village of Llanberis.
Yes.
And that's the sort of stuff that we're faced with, and we've got this massive invasive weed problem now. I don't know whether you're experiencing that in Windermere.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know where we're going.
No, it's interesting.
I hope that you're able to raise some awareness and get people interested, because they are interested. Yes, you'll get surface against sewerage, and you get this against sewerage, and this again, but it's only limited, isn't it? They can't do anything, can they? And unless government, especially here in Wales, the Welsh government, starts sitting up and listening, I think that we're on the losing streak. But perhaps that's what they want. Perhaps it's that they want to get rid of fishing and fish altogether, on the altar of leisure activities and open air activities. But the end of the day, of course, is if you get rid of the fish and you get pollution in the lakes, then your outdoor activities goes down the Swanee, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah.
And it'll be the end of everything.
One or two of the locals were quite interested in this Lake District method we were using. So to say thanks, we gave Hugh a little gift.
Jesus
I'll
Christ.
present you with these, Hugh.
Bloody hell.
Well, these are the long poles that you've heard about.
Gee.
And these are for you to use for the club anytime you can, anytime you'd like.
Yes. Well, we'll have a go on these. I've seen, the only thing I need a photograph is how do you attach them to the boat?
Ah.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell
Nah.
So come all you fine fellows who fish for the char, from dawn's early light to the first evening star. Our hands on the oars and good cheer in our hearts, so come on you char.
In a sense, it's come full circle now. We fished for char for hundreds of years on Windermere, and at that time it was a sustainable fishery. And then one day it wasn't. The art of char fishing is still practised, but now rather than harvesting the char as a food source, a few of us now are supplying catch records and taking scale samples and returning fish to the water and working with the scientists and conservationists to do what we can to save the char.
I'm Dr. Louise Lavictoire. I'm the Head of Science at the Freshwater Biological Association. We have started a char species recovery programme on Windermere. We've got a fairly large partnership working with partners in academia, in the Environment Agency and Lake District National Park Authority and other research institutions like the UK Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. And we're interested in seeing what is going on with char populations in the Lake District. We're starting with Windermere. So the data that we have for char and Windermere comes from a variety of different sources. So over the years, we've looked at char through hydroacoustic data. We've looked at actually catching char in nets. We're looking at eDNA and potentially other genetic studies. But I can't undersell the importance of eyes on the ground. And char fishing in Windermere has drastically reduced over the years. But I think working with local char fishermen to fully understand the individuals, the individual fish that they're catching, what state they're in when they catch them, sex distribution, so how many of them are males and females, and the importance of logbooks and data that would not necessarily be digitized or out there. I guess the oral history as well of char fishermen is really important and something that, to my knowledge, isn't really recorded anywhere. And so introducing or bringing back a logbook scheme for char fishermen to contribute their experiences and their data would be really key as well.
For me, losing char from this lake would be just the same as losing wedge squirrels or songbirds from a Cumbrian native oak woodland. These are incredibly important creatures. They are critical to the ecology of the lake. They are indicators of the pressures that the lake faces as well, from things like invasive species, climate change, water quality. The list goes on, and everything and anything is getting thrown at Arctic char. And as a sensitive species at really the southern end of their distribution, this is as far south as char will go, and they need our help. So the question I often get asked is, what difference does it make if Arctic Char no longer exists in Windermere? And I read a fantastic article a few months ago that basically said if Arctic Char disappeared from Windermere, no one will answer questions in Parliament about this. There'll be no measurable economic impact on the lake, but what we will have lost is an incredibly important part of the lake's ecological and cultural heritage. And that is why we're starting this project, and this is why we have to fight for this species. We may not win the battle, but what we'll learn on Windermere will help us conserve and better understand rare fish elsewhere in the Lake District that also need our help. So acting now, this project cannot wait 5 years. It has to be done now. And as FBA and our partners, we're proud to come together and do our bit to try and save this species before it's too late.
It's not the same spot it was, is it, even 20 years ago?
No, we're the last of the char fishermen on Windermere, aren't we? That's for sure. Well, I am anyway.
Yeah.
You carry on.
Come all you fine fellows who fish for the char, in the cool morning light where the sun meets the stars. Our tackle will find them wherever they are. We welcome the sunrise when hunting the char. The silver lures glitter and glint in the sun. The char fish are down there, the search has begun. Soon the glimmering water will give us our wish. From the cold and deep darkness we'll catch a fine fish. With the lazy line trailing, 2 rods bending low, the main line sunk deep where the cold currents flow. Take care when you're coiling, keep everything right, and beware of the tangle or you'll lose the fight. On Coniston Water, by Brantwood's quiet place, we know to avoid the Fir Island's embrace. By Napping Tree's shade, up Eel Island's green shore, we'll all go a-trolling for the fish we adore.